It is always interesting to hear about initiatives happening in Sweden, especially in relation to climate action. So thank you for sharing the information. Now, may I call on stage Honourable Minister of Climate Crisis and Civil Protection, Mr. Christos Styliannides. Please, welcome. The floor is yours. Yes.
Kalispera. Good afternoon, everybody. Dear Mrs. Chairman of the Hellenic Sweden Chair, Ambassador, dear friend Johan Borgstam, I think my pronunciation is good. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, allow me to thank the Hellenic Swedish Chamber of Commerce and its president, Mrs. Patsiopoulou, for inviting me to the 7th Business Forum Greece-Sweden. Over the years, as I realized through my homework, this business forum has become an institution, a platform that allows for a substantive exchange of ideas, views, and of course, proposals. Let me so congratulate the organizers, the Embassy of Sweden, which supports it, and of course, all of you, the participants. It's my honor and my pleasure to participate in this very important event, an event which this year focuses on one of the biggest, if not the biggest, challenge of our times: climate change, climate crisis. Dear friends, as we know, today's forum is taking place at a very volatile period in Europe and the world. My dear friend, Swedish Ambassador already focused on this, but I take this opportunity to say a few words because I strongly believe that we have to focus on this. We have to enhance and we have to strengthen our unity as European Union, and in particular, our unity as member states of NATO. So, 2 years after the COVID-19 pandemic and in the middle of a war in Europe, after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, these are developments that to a great extent have changed the world as we know it until now. They are forcing us to rethink, to reevaluate, and to readjust our thinking, our policies, and our behavior. Political perspective, but also individual perspective. Both in the short term and in the medium and long term. Things that until yesterday we took for granted are not so anymore. The volatility in Europe and across the world is more evident than ever. It is becoming, unfortunately, the new normal. And this affects all sectors: political sector, economic sector, and of course, social sector. So, we can no more continue as business as usual. We must think out of the box. And this forum is a platform that provides an opportunity to do so. Ladies and gentlemen, it is within this framework that we need to see climate change and climate crisis. It's inevitable to insist on this framework, otherwise we'll be out of the reality. And we have to be very pragmatic and very realistic. Climate change is real. It's not fake news, as President Trump many times, unfortunately, insisted on this. It is a reality that no doubt concerns us all, a reality that impacts every aspect of our lives, in particular the environment and biodiversity, the economy, our societies, our health, and of course well-being. And of course, a changing climate results in emerging security challenges. Challenges for which we need to be able to show, under any circumstances, flexibility and act quickly. Timing is of the essence, especially today that we are living in an emergency state of affairs. The consequences of climate change are really horizontal. They are felt throughout the planet, with extreme weather phenomena becoming more frequent and severe all over the globe. No country can escape climate crisis, even the most powerful ones. As we speak now, California, the richest state in USA, is experiencing unprecedented climate-driven mega fires. They are not talking about, many of the scientific community, they are now talking about a fire year, not of a fire season. This speaks for itself. So, scientific data leaves no space for misunderstandings or excuses. Climate change is well ahead of us. This is the hard reality. We are in the middle of a climate crisis. So we need to act, and we need to act now. If we want to stop the most alarming prediction from coming true, from coming our ordinary reality, we must take now concrete actions, because, as I already said and I already emphasized, time is of the essence to address both the consequences and the root causes of climate change. Cooperation at all levels is of paramount importance. No country and no institution can face the challenge alone. It's illusion. No matter how big or well prepared it is. Remember, as I said, California, if the richest region of the US cannot escape the impact of climate crisis, then no one can, certainly not by acting alone. I experienced many times when I was commissioner from crisis management and humanitarian aid. I saw on the ground many times, not only in Europe, in Africa, in Latin America, and in Asia. It's really illusion to see someone, politician, or even well-prepared countries believe that only their preparation or their preparedness are really enough to challenge the impact of the climate change. It's really illusion, and this is why it's therefore really fundamental to work together, collectively. Cooperation and synergies are key words in tackling the climate crisis and its consequences. So, to join forces to prevent the most catastrophic prediction from coming true. I think join forces. It's a very key wording in order to be together in this really very demanding challenge. Dear friends, addressing climate change requires a global level strategic and coordinated response. And this is where climate diplomacy comes in. Last November, in Glasgow at COP26, the international community reaffirmed its commitment to the implementation of the Paris Agreement and, of course, its goals. Now is the time to move from declarations to actions. It's a big challenge, it's a huge challenge, but this is the only way. This is the only way because we have a moral duty, a moral obligation to present concrete results at the next COP27 in Cairo. So, what we need? We need to, first, move faster with the implementation of the Paris Agreement, a milestone in climate change policy. I was there when we negotiated Paris Agreement as commissioner, and I saw the difficulties and the reluctance from many of big countries in the world. I remember I had a very tough discussion with my dear colleague, minister from China, about crisis management. And I saw that he was very adamant, even to understand the very well-known scientific data. So it's not easy to negotiate all these things. And what we experience in Europe maybe is completely different than what they believe in the different regions and areas across the world. So the implementation of the Paris Agreement, it is a milestone in our climate change policy. Second, accelerate domestic action and cooperation in Europe. This is our duty as Europeans. No doubt that EU Green Deal is an ambitious, a holistic package of measures and policy actions that we must implement, taking, of course, into consideration and adjusting to the current geopolitical developments. So, we insist on our common goals and purposes, but with really adaptation and adjusting ourselves without any doubt that we have to be in accordance with our common goals. It's not easy, especially in political arena, but I strongly believe that we can achieve this if we continue to be together as Europeans within the European framework. I experienced many times a lot of negotiations over nights in European institutions to reach common goals and common agreements. I can reassure that it's a difficult path, but it's the only way, and at the end of the day, all together, we can achieve these common goals. Third point, and also very critical, enhance international cooperation. The agreement in Glasgow, including the agreement between USA and China to collaborate on climate change and develop solutions, are steps in the right direction. We need to keep the momentum. Fortunately, now the new president in Washington, Mr. Biden, and his administration is really completely different than President Trump. And this is a new state of affairs. It is a new ally for all of us who believe in the implementation of the Paris Agreement. But no doubt, regardless of the geopolitical changes, USA's stance is a sort of precondition in order to see China's stance to be changed. Dear colleagues, now in our country, Greece is really fully committed in these efforts and to help achieve these common goals. We are committed to be at the forefront of tackling climate crisis because we are a country located at the hotspot of climate crisis. Because, unfortunately, the Eastern Mediterranean is the real hotspot of the climate change. I think we don't need to provide more data because all of us here, we share the same scientific data about the hotspot of the Eastern Mediterranean. But at the same time, our country, Greece, has experienced that hard way the consequences of climate crisis. President already mentioned about the last thunderstorm last night here in Attica, but also in Evia, in Phthiotida, in Phokida, and we had a missing persons all night, and frankly speaking, I was not asleep because this is my role as crisis management to see how is going all these things about missing persons and all this impact of the weather conditions. But now it's okay. We found him, and it was a relief for all of us because he's just a 35 years old lawyer who intended to be in the forest even during the thunderstorms. Okay, it's a human right. Nevertheless, but really here in this country, last year's unprecedented heat waves and mega fires that hit our country was a clear proof that climate change and climate crisis is here. I remember when we had a discussion among different European member states in a workshop about the lessons learned from the last mega fires in Greece and, of course, across Mediterranean countries, all of us, we realize that not only just a time or 2-3 times, but many times last summer we experienced a so-called thermal phenomenon in which we experienced 600 Celsius decrease. 600. No doubt that these mega fires is completely impossible to challenge with this. So what we need? Prevention, preparedness, in order to avoid to this type of mega fires. Otherwise, no doubt we'll be defeated by mega fires and we will see the consequences everywhere. So, our commitment was reiterated by Prime Minister Mitsotakis repeatedly. And our policies showcase that our commitment is not theoretical. We mean business. Realistically, but we mean business. And as my dear friend already mentioned, the first national climate law is now in the Greek Parliament for debate. Maybe we will need some changes. We will need more debate, more discussion, more scientific discussion. But at least the climate law is at the Greek Parliament. This is a big step. At the same time, we are putting forward a number of measures to achieve the green transition. Many measures, the majority of them is very well known to the public opinion. But let me underline the most emblematic, the most symbolic action by Prime Minister Mitsotakis, the establishment of our ministry, the Ministry for Climate Crisis and Civil Protection. an innovative initiative by Prime Minister, which is a concrete proof that tackling climate crisis is a priority, top priority for the Greek government. An initiative which, maybe you know it, which gained significant recognition at the European level and which will receive substantial technical assistance by European Commission DG reform as a flagship project which aims to be used as an example for other EU member states. This flagship has contributed by European funding 1.5 million, is the highest flagship project by DG Reform in the last 10 years when DG Reform started its commitment to provide really technical assistance to the member state in order to make big reforms in their countries. Dear friends, few words about our ministry. Our ministry aims at enhancing our country's resilience and adaptability to the climate crisis through a holistic approach by bringing the effects of climate change with civil protection. It's really unique, and it is a real compliment to the Ministry of Energy and Environment. So we have two ministries here in Greece which are responsible for climate change and climate crisis. Our ministry, which is focusing on the combination between civil protection and climate crisis, and the Ministry of Energy and the Environment, which focuses on energy sustainability and, of course, biodiversity and all these things about the impact of climate change on the environment. This is a new approach regarding our policies and our establishment, a new dogma, if we will, that is based on a robust scientific analysis and expertise, an approach that incorporates technology and innovation. From the beginning of our ministry, of my appointment as minister, this ministry, I emphasize on that we need scientific analysis and expertise. We need science and scientists to be at our side. Nobody can deal with these challenges without scientific approach. All these approaches that they based on the experience and the innovation at the critical time, I think it's just action without strategy, but also it is completely ready to be failure because they cannot understand all aspects of the consequences of the climate change. And of course, beyond scientific analysis and scientific data, and this is why we insist on a new national database, which will be, I strongly believe, the turning point in our dealing with all these repercussions of the climate change. Our approach and our insistence is based on three key pillars: prevention, preparedness, and resilience. These, for us, are the guiding pillars in all of our policies and actions. Also, cooperation and collective action play a central role here in our ministry results-oriented approach. The creation of synergies is key for the successful completion of our ministry's mission. Cooperation at all levels, not only at the international level, not only at the European level, but also at the national level. Because, as you realize, many years ago, climate crisis knows no borders. So, cooperation with all stakeholders, national, European, and international institutions and fora, like today's forum, the scientific community, the civil society, and volunteers. Because in this effort, we are all together. And as I always say, we are all in the same boat. Therefore, now is the time to move faster forward, to enhance this cooperation, to strengthen existing structures while creating, if necessary, new ones, and to make our instruments, our tools and mechanisms more flexible and more efficient. No doubt that in Greece, the Greek administration sometimes is really inflexible. And sometimes we have a lot of overlappings and a lot of laws which are really obstacles to see this flexibility and this really faster approach to many things. But we have to insist on this. This is the only way in order to overcome these obstacles. Frankly speaking, sometimes I'm a little bit disappointed, but we will continue because Prime Minister Mitsotakis is really very supportive to this dimension. Dear friends, in closing, let me once again congratulate the Hellenic Swedish Chamber and everyone involved in the organization of this important forum, and of course for taking the initiative to put at center stage climate change and climate crisis. And in particular, enhancing resilience and adaptability in this dimension is our critical and common goal. I strongly believe, dear Ambassador, dear President, dear participants, that regardless of the geopolitical implications, regardless of the necessity to be adjusted in some of the impact of the geopolitical implications, we have to insist on this Green Deal dimension and this adaptation to the climate change agreements in Paris and in Glasgow. Otherwise, we will be completely out of our hard reality. And we will see in 10 or 15 years what we are experiencing now to be just the first step of what is coming, which will be really more devastating, more catastrophic, not only for the planet, just theoretically, but for our lives. I met many scientists across the world who were really very conservative many times about the climate change, and I realized that they were completely right in their predictions. So don't underestimate their prediction. Just to conclude, I wish you every success to your deliberation, and I'm really looking forward for the results of this forum because we need also your input. Thank you so much for your attention.